Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So today's a particularly interesting day for me, with what's going on in Ukraine and, the former guy coming out and throwing his support behind Putin, calling him a genius and savvy. I couldn't help but remember that Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, didn't he go to Russia on 4th of July not too long ago? And I now got to know why. That popped into my head. Was it for an endorsement? I don't know, which is why Wisconsin is on my radar as one of those states where I would love to see the Republicans lose another seat. And there's a guy that I really like because he did something that I've been talking about for, ever. He was out on a picket line supporting striking workers. He's out in front of worker issues. In fact, put out a campaign ad, which I thought was unique and incredible. The campaign ad that he ran was, hey, come to a rally supporting workers who want to make sure that the billions of dollars we're spending on new postal vehicles get made in his state like they should have been. I think that's really cool, and I think it's important that we have people like that, which is why I've asked Tom Nelson to come talk with us. Again, just incredible to me. Tom is currently the executive of Outagamie County. He is running for Senate there in Wisconsin. Tom, thanks for taking time for us.
Great to be on, and thanks for your support for the workers of Local 578 in Oshkosh. This is just fantastic. I told the fellows that I'm going on this program, going on because you retweeted the radio ad. They're just ecstatic. And, this is going to be a tough fight, but I think just having support coming not just from Wisconsin, but across the country, I cannot tell you, Rick, how much this means for the workers at Oshkosh.
Oh, it's important. Look, I've been saying for the longest time, the Democratic Party has lost their way. They used to be the party of labor. They used to be the party of the working class. They used to be the party of the people who took a shower when they got home at night. For some way, they lost their way. And when I saw your ad, when I saw your Twitter account, I go, this is a guy that we should be emulating. This is a guy we should be holding up because this is a guy who's actually walking the walk that he talks. And that's, again, something that in this moment, if you're a Democratic candidate, I don't care for dog catcher. If you haven't been on a picket line talking to a striking worker, you should cancel your campaign immediately. So in looking at this, because that issue that you put this ad out for, I think is one that really should anger people. Ron Johnson said your state already has enough jobs. How do you respond to that?
Well, here's a really frustrating thing. Ron Johnson's pretty crazy. We got in this race 16 months ago because I had a sneaking suspicion that this guy was going to run for re-election, even though he promised he was not going to do it. Surprise, surprise. But here's the really, really crushing thing, Rick, is I talk to people and this whole notion about how there's too many jobs, you would be surprised at how many people who are buying into that fiction, how we've been hearing, how it's been drilled into our heads. There's too many jobs. There's not enough workers. People want to work. Well, no. The issue is there aren't enough good paying jobs. And this is what it is. This is a $10 billion contract from the federal government to build the next fleet of Postal Service vehicles. Oshkosh Truck can do 100% electric vehicle or 0% electric vehicle. So this whole thing about pitting environmentalists and labor against each other because of the make of these vehicles, that's off the table. What is on the table is where they are going to make this. Oshkosh Truck got this contract for one reason only. Local 578. They have been there for over 100 years. They have established a track record. They have the workmanship. They have the craftsmanship. They have the reputation. They are the reason why Oshkosh Truck got that contract. The fact that they're sending it to union-busting South Carolina because there's too many jobs up here, I think is absolutely unforgivable. This community made Oshkosh. This is not Spartanburg Truck. This is Oshkosh Truck. And so we need to get this message out. And even though I've got to, marshal my resources to try to win this U.S. Senate race to beat Ron Johnson, this is a campaign within a campaign because this is who I am. This is where I come from. I come from a blue-collar neighborhood in Little Chute. All the dads worked at paper mills, except for my dad. He was a Lutheran pastor. I like to say he wore a white collar. But I learned very, very early the importance of serving your community, serving your neighbor, and finding out in time that there are a lot of people like the working families on Carolyn Drive, the working families in Oshkosh, or Local 578, who work hard, play by the rules, pay their taxes, and can't seem to get ahead because there's a lot of money and there's a lot of power concentrated in just a few hands, including the CEO of Oshkosh Truck or Oshkosh Corp. And that is wrong. There are 100 U.S. Senate seats. 100 U.S. Senate seats. Those are 100 positions for people to get in to make a difference, to help the families on Carolyn Drive, to help the families in Oshkosh. That's what my service has been about. And so when there's something like this that comes up where I can stand up and I can elevate and I can raise this issue statewide, nationally, I will drop everything. I'll drop a U.S. Senate campaign to stand up for those workers because it's the right thing to do.
No, I saw you on the street with Starbucks workers in negative 13 degrees. I know you will. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're with Tom Nelson. Tom's a candidate for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin. He's the Outagamie County Executive currently. If you want to check out his website, nelsonforwi.com. We'll get links out on social media, how you can take a look at that and help out his campaign. If you're in the area, if you're in earshot of it, I'm sure you need volunteers. I'm sure you need donations because, as you pointed out, these campaigns are costly, and Ron Johnson is, well, loaded. I mean, he can self-fund this campaign, and he's got the ear of our nation's oligarchy. I don't think he's going to be concerned about keeping the lights on, so which is why I think people need to help folks like you.
Thank you, sir.
So, again, I go back to this and why I think it's so important to do what you are doing. What kind of response are you getting from that ad? And look, I know you're not able to put it everywhere like you'd want to, and we want you to because I think it's incredible. What kind of response are you getting?
Well, first of all, I mean, any dollar I raise off of that ad on social media, on my Twitter or on Facebook, Nelson4WI, every dollar I raise off that is going back into the buy. And if I can raise enough money, it's going to go beyond Oshkosh. We'll bring it to Fond du Lac, to Appleton, to Green Bay. But we only got 3 or 4 days. So whatever we raise there, that's going on the air because this is absolutely important. So what I hear on the campaign trail, when I'm talking to people, it's exactly what you would expect. We're at a point in our country's history. There's this populist vein that's coursing through. There's the conservative and there's the progressive. Where this nation has been going because of Donald Trump is, it, appeals to our darker angels. And the reason why I believe people went with Donald Trump, including a lot of working men and women, is because the Democratic Party was not speaking to them in the terms that they should, because as you mentioned at the top of the hour, Rick, that we seem to have lost our way. If you look at what happened to Democrats in the 1990s with this neoliberalism, how we are looking at free trade as the solution, tax cuts for the rich, for corporations and giveaways, we lost our way. What we need to do is we need to invest in working families. And that means a $15 minimum wage. That means paid family medical leave. That means Medicare for all. That means getting rid of bad trade deals that have shipped Wisconsin jobs overseas. And that means passing the PRO Act. And you know what it also means too? I'm going to go a little further on this. It means repealing Taft-Hartley. Now, I will go to that point because that was the beginning of the downfall of the American labor movement. We peaked in 1946, 1947, 1 out of 3 private sector jobs was organized. Now we're down to what, 6 or 7%. The year that passed, that was the beginning. That's the reason why we have right to work laws. Yep. That's the insidious nature of what corporate America has done to us. So let's go back. Let's go back where it started, and let's get rid of that, and let's start over.
See, this is what a Democrat should sound like. I'm not pandering to you, but exactly what you said is what I've been saying every Democratic politician should be running on. We need to repeal Taft-Hartley, give workers their right to organize, to fight for better wages, hours, conditions, to lift up their communities. And as you mentioned earlier, people are working hard, they're playing by the rules, and they're not getting ahead. I grew up believing that if you did work hard, play by the rules, that you would get ahead, and the game's rigged. And I think so many people see this. The fact that we had a number of people voting for the former guy who sold them on the idea that we're going to bring back all this manufacturing, we're going to recreate the 1950s, it's going to be great again. And then did nothing to do anything about it. No infrastructure bill, no real policy or direction, but got people thinking in those terms. Is one of these moments where This is the issue. And Joe Biden is doing something about it, I believe, as we're talking about bringing manufacturing back. So let me ask you this: with the news today, now I did kind of a little chip shot at Ron Johnson about his visit to Russia on the 4th of July. I'm looking at this moment, and maybe you'll come with me, maybe you won't. I see this as a moment of national mobilization to rebuild our manufacturing base, because I don't think in the world that we're heading into, the world that my grandparents had, we had manufacturing prowess that were able to shift us over to war production. We're not that country anymore. And in fact, we can't even make the things we need to fight a cyber war. I'm curious, as a senator, what would you do, and how do you move us in a direction of reclaiming that silent power to where we could once again walk silently but have that big stick?
No, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think you're exactly right, that there is this realization, there is this understanding that even if you're not in a manufacturing heavy state like Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Wisconsin, okay, you are affected. You've been affected by the hollowing out of the manufacturing core of this country, because we have offshored key manufacturing components. I mean, if you look at where the supply chain broke, it was with semiconductors and microchips, and that's because production is isolated in one part of China. Look, America, we were the ones who invented the microchip, that invented the semiconductor. We need to reshore that production, because the problems we had during the pandemic, not being able to make ventilators, not being able to have enough saline solution bags, and go all the way to going into a grocery store, going down the toilet paper aisle, it was like Soviet Russia, 1973. Where's the paper products? Well, here we are. I'm calling to you live from the Paper Valley in Wisconsin. It's not called the Paper Valley for something. This is the highest concentrations of paper plants and paper mills in the world. And we have lost those jobs. We've lost those jobs because people like Ron Johnson are not standing up for American manufacturing, despite the fact that Ron Johnson made his millions in the paper and plastics industry. So even the self-touted manufacturer doesn't understand the value of American manufacturing. But you're right, Rick. This is the moment in time where everybody's dialed in, understand what happens when you have a broken supply chain, how it creates inflation, how it brings this country to its knees. We are the only industrialized country in the world that does not have an industrial strategy. Everyone else identifies commodities and different services and things that are a matter of national security, and they make investments in those industries, and they make sure the workers are well compensated and that they have family supporting jobs. We don't have that. And so then when we have a pandemic, we were totally unprepared for this. So this is the moment. This is the opportunity. This is like a perfect storm. You have this resurgence of the American labor movement. You have this collective understanding nationally, regardless if you're from a manufacturing state or not, that we have to reshore manufacturing. We have to do it ourselves, because you never know if there's going to be a truck blockade in Ottawa, and so we can't get stuff coming from the north. And you have Russia, who is destabilizing trade routes there. Look, I'm not saying we have to shut down any type of, shut down our borders when it comes to production, but we have to be more self-sustaining. So now you need to have a U.S. Senator that comes in there, that understands this, that's going to put the nation's attention, the nation's resources, the power of this nation's law to redo American manufacturing. And at the core of manufacturing is the labor movement.
Well, I'm hearing I'm hearing your father in you. I'm sure should have been proud of that. Because preach it, brother. I'm right there with you. Because the reality is this is how we revive this country in a way that pulls us back together. And I've been saying jobs and manufacturing, and that's the way we come back to somewhere at least close to the same arena, if not on the same field, at least closer. But here's the thing, and if you're just joining us, I'm talking with Tom Nelson. Tom is the Outagamie County Executive. He's also running for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin. Make sure you check out his website, nelsonforwi.com. We'll get links out on social media. You can check that. If you're just joining us, a podcast, you don't want to miss this conversation. This is one of those ones that you're going to want to listen to over and over again. Because, again, this, in my view, how a Democrat should be running and sound. Now, we have a tax system problem that is insane. In fact, Rick Scott just came out with the Republican agenda. I don't know if you've seen the nice 31-page glossy brochure of the 11 points of insanity that of jingoism that he wants to throw out. But in the background, going to raise taxes on 100 million working class folks because, hey, that's what they do. I view our tax code as so badly screwed up and so slanted to, creating the largest wealth class in the history of known science, not known history. What do you do? Is there a way to make the tax code better, more effective, help working class folks get by, not punish too much at the top, but enough to say, look, we need investment. We need money. We need to help. What do you do on the tax front?
I think we have to go on offense. Which is we start closing these corporate tax loopholes. We pass the ultra wealthy tax that Liz Warren has been pushing. You need to start crafting tax policy just as you should craft trade policy, economic policy in this country. And it is simply from the perspective of the working man and woman, from the working families. That is the fundamental problem we have, even before you put pen to paper and write a law, tax law, a trade deal. Before you do that, you have to look at it from the vantage point of the worker. And we don't, because the politicians are bought up by Wall Street, the billionaires, and the millionaires. And so they look at that piece of legislation, they look at that tax policy, they look at that trade deal from the perspective of their campaign benefactors, corporate America. No wonder the little guy, the paper mill worker on Carolyn Drive, or the auto worker in Oshkosh can't have a fair shake, who work hard, that pay their taxes but can't get ahead because the system is rigged. And the system is rigged because you have politicians that don't listen to working families, politicians, many of them who are millionaires themselves. Look, if I get elected to the U.S. Senate, I will be in the lonely minority of 30 of 1/3 that are not a millionaire. There's something fundamentally wrong. And then you can just kind of go down the rabbit's hole from there. I mean, this goes to the whole issue about the stock trading ban. I mean, I'm not sure if it's just me here in little Appleton, Wisconsin, but if I go down College Avenue, I ask people about, members of Congress getting insider information, making millions of dollars off the stock trading. That's not right. And yet they can do that. And they can do it because they have done. And they've got away with it again and again. And so here I come up with this crazy idea. Hey, let's ban stock trading for members of Congress and their families. And you can't even get Democrats. You can't even get Democratic leaders on board. I mean, that is just a damning indictment on the state of this party. No wonder we lose blue collar workers to people like that former guy. It's all coming together now. But we got to go back to our roots. We know the answer. We know the solution. We got to get out of whatever we've been in for the last 30 or 40 years. We know how to do this. I believe that President Biden is on the right track. I believe because of people like Bernie Sanders, of whom I was a delegate in 2020, because of folks like that, they're moving the discussion and they're refocusing the attention, the economic issues, tax policy issues, trade issues onto the working families. They have done more than the Democratic Party has done in the last 40 years. Mm-hmm. That's what I tend to do in the U.S. Senate. I'm going to be to the progressive side as Sherrod Brown. I mean, this is going to be my core. This is how I'm going to act on legislation, write on legislation, and champion those issues. We do that, we're not going to have a Donald Trump problem anymore because we're going to be the real deal. Okay? Working Wisconsinites, Americans are going to come to the Democratic Party, come to people like Sherrod Brown and hopefully Tom Nelson, because we're going to show you this is how we make a positive impact in your lives. This is how we protect and grow good jobs here in Oshkosh, not somewhere in the South because they bust up unions. It's going to take time. And it's going to take more than just one election cycle, but it has to start someplace. And it's starting right now.
I was going to give you 2 minutes to give your elevator speech on why Tom Nelson. I think you just did it. I don't know where you can go anywhere else but there. The last question I got for you, what can folks do to help? How do folks help?
Let's start with this first. We haven't talked about this too. My campaign manager is yelling at me. So I wrote a book. I wrote a book 2 years ago about the work I did with the local steel workers to help save a paper mill. So this is just like Oshkosh Truck. Everybody gave up on this paper mill. PNC Bank pushed it into receivership. A scrap dealer from California bought it and was going to scrap it. And they said, Appleton Coated is gone. And so I said, no, we're going to fight back. I got together with the union. We prevailed on a local judge to make that scrap dealer give us a second chance. We put together a business model with labor and management, and local government. Okay. We brought back 3 machines in 2 months. We brought back 300 jobs. And by the third business quarter, those workers who were going to be unemployed were already getting their profit sharing checks. There aren't a lot of stories like this. But the Appleton Coated story is a special story. It is so special. I spent 2 years writing and researching this. It's called One Day Stronger, how one union local saved a mill, changed an industry, what it means for American manufacturing. This is the blueprint. This is the starting point of how we revitalize manufacturing using the paper industry as a case point of what happened here in Outagamie County at the combined locks mill. If you're interested, go to my website, onedaystrongerbook.com. So you can check out the website, Rick, as you mentioned before, and then also the book site, onedaystrongerbook.com. And we'll send you a copy too, Rick, okay?
We will make sure that we get links out so folks can do that. Also, if folks want to help with the campaign, go to nelsonforwi.com, and I'm sure there are ways to help. But, Tom, it was great talking with you. I wish you the best. Please come back often. Love talking with you, man.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Good stuff, Tom Nelson. And like I said, make sure you check out the website, nelsonforwi.com. Now, as I've been saying, and if you've listened to the program for a while, I've been saying, look, adopt a striker. Get out on the picket line, adopt a worker. Talk about these issues. The way he sounded, this should be required viewing and listening for every candidate. You drill down to the local. And rural communities need this more than anybody. To get into these rural communities and actually talk to the working people who are there. Because guess what? They're not all ideologically crazy. They mostly want the same things. Healthcare, decent job, some retirement security, good schools for their kids, opportunity. A responsive government that's going to meet the needs of their community. It's not that difficult. So the website, nelsonforwi.com, we'll get links out. That's simple. I love the fact that he brought up Taft-Hartley. I've been saying that for the longest time. I would love to see Taft-Hartley be repealed, because it should be. The original, and again, you've heard this before, but the original intent of the National Labor Relations Act was for government to encourage workers to collectively bargain. And as I've said for the longest time, and I think is accurate, it was a peace treaty between workers who were striking and shutting things down, and corporate America for industrial peace. I think we're in those moments. And like I said, what caught my attention with Tom was the ad that maybe we should be making those postal vehicles in Wisconsin using union labor as the president wanted, so that those jobs are good jobs, good union jobs. Maybe we should be moving in that direction. Make sure that people have a chance. That's all. Now, you've got Ron Johnson, Mr. We've got enough jobs. We've got enough jobs. Does any state have enough good jobs? The answer is no. Anyway, if you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com, make sure you check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. Get the podcast there. Take the program anywhere you want to go, and go back and listen to Tom Nelson again. If you missed any of that, very important. Quick break, right back. Stick around.